It all works. Simply press the red button and then select the view you want to see from the video menu. Ride with Michael Schumacher or many of the other drivers during the race. Follow the best battle. Check out life in the pit lane. Or catch up with all the facts and figures for every driver and team in Formula One. The exclusive Formula One Digital Plus interactive service for Sky Digital subscribers on Channel 434. Okay, the second practice session for the 2002 Australian Grand Prix is about to get underway, so the time is nigh to go and rejoin our commentator John Watson on the Super Channel.
Well, looking down on the circuit there, you can see the ambient and track temperatures are beginning to rise, the humidity is dropping, and the sky, you can see a bit of blue finally breaking through here in Melbourne. We're so accustomed to this circuit being completely swathed in blue skies and the odd puff of cloud around. But what a magnificent sight that is, the lovely Albert Park, and then behind it the main city of Melbourne, and a city really that is the sports capital of Australia, and it's quite fitting that the Grand Prix behind the garages. It's a bit of a social gathering spot, and rumour and what skullduggery I suppose it is goes on there all the time. Difficult to get in. You've got to be accredited to get in there. So those that are there have got a purpose and a reason, and are delighted, in fact, to be able to walk around. You see Juan Pablo Montoya walking there, talking to one of his engineers. So there's a few minutes left. I mean, look at Juan Pablo, so relaxed, so laid back. We're, what, 14 minutes away from the second 1 hour session. There he is walking down the back of the pits towards his garage. You know, he's just taking it easy. There are the facts for Sunday's Grand Prix: 58 laps, 307 kilometres, or 191 miles if you wanted in the old imperial measure. Lap record 128.214. Well, that was almost matched this morning by Michael Schumacher, 128.8. And there are the various intermediate points. You hear me talking about these intermediate points around the circuit. Very important for the teams. And of course, if you use your interactive button on your handset, you can get in to the timings that the teams have. So basically you've got all the information, both segment times, lap times, speeds, miles per hour, seconds, whatever, even the weather chart, which I'm looking at right now, which tells me tracks up to 20, air 70, circuit is now dry, wind speed 0.7, humidity 63, it's dropping all the time, barometric pressure 1016.4. So we've got 12 minutes before we get back out on track, and it's pretty busy there in the pits. Everybody, no problems other than for Nick Heidfeld, of course. He had a fuel pressure problem with the Cyber Patronus, and that would be something I'm sure the team will quickly address. Heidfeld anxious to continue the progress that he had made earlier in the morning, went up and down the various times. And there's another view of Albert Park. It is a municipal park, and the public have every right to use the sailboats that are for hire on the park, even in the middle of practice for Sunday's Grand Prix. And there you see, that's the exit of 9, how close the race cars get, in fact, to the lake. But those are concrete barriers, and then on top of that you've got the debris fencing, which is very substantial indeed. But that's the part of the track, and Jacques Villeneuve in the first year of BAR lost the rear wing, went skating down the track, high speed spin. Jacques Villeneuve got nerves of steel, got out of the car, just sort of said, well, for me it's nothing, I'm used to that. Previous winners, Michael Schumacher twice, Eddie Irvine first Grand Prix win, Mika Häkkinen, somewhat controversial, second Grand Prix win. David Coulthard, of course, won his first Grand Prix here in 97 for McLaren. Damon in 96 and 95, of course, Nigel in 94. Ayrton Senna 93, and then Gerhard Berger also for McLaren in 92. Melbourne became the venue for the Grand Prix in 96. All Grand Prix prior were in the street circuit in Adelaide. A city very popular amongst the teams. It was the end of the season, a bit like end of term for the teams. But Melbourne came along, Albert Park, Jeff Kennett, the then president of the state of Victoria, and promoter Ron Walker put a deal to Formula One and put on an even bigger and an even better show than that Adelaide did, and Adelaide, believe me, was pretty good. There's an old t-shirt, somebody must have acquired that a couple of years ago. Some of the team members managed to lose team gear, but Eddie Irvine not interested in team gear, he's interested in that car. Talking to Mark Hansford, Jackie Stewart pops out of the box, as he frequently does, talking to team members. Interesting to see what Jackie's got to say to Eddie. When Jackie was more involved in the team, Eddie had him sometimes dangling from a string. Eddie is a very lateral thinker, a very bright man, and sometimes Jackie didn't quite get the measure of the Irish wit, being a Scotsman, of course. Well, that's another way to fend off the chill wind that's blowing around the Albert Park circuit. There's lots of food stalls all around the circuit. Melbourne, of course, also, food is fantastic. It is the food capital of Australia. Don't let anybody tell you Sydney is. Melbourne is stunning. But those fish and chips probably are a bit below the normal standard. Let's get a little grips. There he is. Little pint-sized jockey from Japan, Takumi Sato. 11th quickest this morning. And somebody, if anybody ever witnessed his Formula 3 performance, he said this ability to be absolutely blinding in the first couple of laps of a race, when you, in those days, with tyres that are unheated, he just had that special skill and ability.
Yeah. No, I mean, we put on the dry tyres, and straight away the something let go at the back of the car. Nothing major, but it's something small actually, but it just requires a long change, so to speak. And I think Mark's got a small problem as well, a different one, but another small problem. So not really good, really. We need to get out there and do some laps, so we're going to miss the beginning of the next session.
Obviously, you've been testing quite a lot around around Europe. How do you feel is the basic pace of this year's car?
Good. As long as we can get running, get going. I'm happy with what the team's done. The team really worked unbelievable miracles practically to get the car ready, and I think you'll be surprised.
Alex, thanks very much.
Because he's a racer, and also because he's easy and laid back, and sometimes teammate Ralf Schumacher is perceived to be standoffish, uncooperative. I'm sure that that's not true, but you know, these are the perceptions that people get. And right now one has to think that Montoya, of the two Williams BMW drivers, is the one that, I suppose if you asked the team to do a poll, a blind poll, would say he would be their choice. Well, looking over Port Phillip Bay, of course very close to the circuit, and air temperature and track temperature continuing to rise. But those clouds, I must say, are threatening, and having been in Australia recently and seen what happens when that weather changes, it can come down literally flood the circuit in about 2 minutes. Well, a little display going on, and there's a few of the drivers who are quite useful. And Eddie Irvine, for one particularly, is a real master on jet skis. Now, what is Mark Webber doing? Sitting having lunch. He should have had his lunch half an hour ago. You know, it's not a very good idea, in my view, for a racing driver to have a big bowl of pasta and then leap into a racing car. You want to have a small bowl of pasta as far away from the session as possible. Otherwise, you sort of get into a car. You know, it's like when you've had a big meal, your stomach's full. You're probably not quite as bright. But Paul Stoddard, team owner of Minardi, sitting there talking to the press. A very important part of a Grand Prix weekend. The press want to know what's going on. They want to know what the future plans are. But I think Paul Stoddard trumped everybody. You heard Nicky Lauda referring to Ron Dennis and the thought that Ron might have got his own 747. Well, Paul Stoddard trumped that. He's bought 5 of the things. He bought them from British Airways. They were early 747-100s, and he bought them for a bargain basement price, and he flew his entire team and cars down into Melbourne. Great publicity for the race, and of course for a man from Australia to turn up in his Grand Prix in a 747. Well, I don't think anybody else in Formula 1 is going to do that for some time. Ralph back into his car. You can and just see how snug around his cheekbones and cheeks these helmets are. And in fact, both Schumacher brothers have got helmets which have been specially designed, have been aerodynamically designed to improve the engine air intake. In other words, give the engine more air. Because Ralph is quite tall, it's more difficult for him to get out of the airflow around the airbox. Michael gets down a bit more snugly. But the helmet supplier has produced these helmets, and they anticipate that they could benefit by up to 10 brake horsepower because they're getting a better airflow around the driver's head, around the helmet, and therefore into the engine. Now he's 20 years old, Felipe Massa, and I don't know, he's the oldest 20-year-old I've ever seen in some ways. Did a great job here this morning, ended up 6th quickest, certainly in maximum speeds down the quickest part of the straight. And, looks like Alan McNish, it's a big moment in his life. He's dreamt of this since when he was a schoolboy. Great success through his early years in Formula Lotus Vauxhall, and then in Formula 3, and then moved into Formula 3000. Wasn't such a great year in 1991, 4th in 1990, and then went into this period almost of the wilderness between 92 all the way up until 97 when he got a drive in the Porsche Works team in North America, then won Le Mans in 1998, and then driving with Toyota and finally being accepted and nominated as the second driver in the Toyota team. And Alan is extremely proud, and rightly so. He's done it the hard way. He said, I know I'm not the youngest kid out there any longer, 32 years of age, but look at Damon Hill, look at Nigel Mansell. They both achieved their goals. Damon was 34, 35. Nigel won his championship, I think he was 42. But it is a sport where perception is counting for so much, and you've seen so many young people come along like Raikkonen and now Massa and others, barely shaving and getting into cars and being instantly quick, and in the case of Raikkonen, certainly a star for the future. What do you do when you're 32 years of age? You just got to wait for Toyota to come along and give you the opportunity. Well, Alan McNish, I'm sure, will make every opportunity of that, as will his teammate Mika Salo, who, in a sense, not much difference in age, but of course a lot more experience. 3 years older at 35. Mika Salo signed up to Toyota because it was basically going to be his last hurrah. But team boss Ove Anderson, talking to Peter Windsor earlier, well, you could see enormous pleasure in his face. It's a big operation, some 550 people employed in Cologne, some 30 different nationalities work there. An unusual place to set up a Formula One team. Various reasons why Toyota chose to do that. They were doing it their own way, and Toyota as a company tend to do things on 5-year programs, and this year, the first year, that program will be basically to learn, but principally to finish, to get the results they can. If they can get some points, then they'll be even happier. But moving into years 2, 3, 4 and 5, you will expect to see an uplift in the performance, and I think that will go through the company. It may be on the technical side. I'm certain it will take place on the driver's side, and I'm sure there are a number of drivers whose contracts are currently under review who will be eyeing Toyota for the future. But, Toyota are not fools, and Ove Anderson is far from a fool. They're not going to just take drivers who are looking to cash in the last couple of years of a twilight of a career. They're going to look for people that are hungry, that want to go out and work hard and win. Just looking at the front of the McLaren there, interesting that their approach to brake ducts and how it differs to that of the Ferrari. We'll get a glimpse of the Ferrari ones maybe a little bit later, but McLaren very much more conventional with a large air intake. Not particularly hard on brakes in Albert Park, but you need to keep them cool, otherwise the things wear out too quickly. There's the Ferrari brake duct. It's a cylindrical thing. It's been perceived by some teams as being a moving aerodynamic device. Now that's a contentious issue, and it's gone to Charlie Whiting, the FIA technical delegate, and has been given the thumbs up. But we see Eddie Irvine now, the first car at the head of the queue, waiting for those lights to go out. We've got 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the meantime, we've got Peter Windsor now has finally caught up with Flavio Briatore.
We still have a problem with Flavio. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, and it's not the first time he said that, of course. Back to you.
Well, they'll get it third time lucky with Flavio. It's just right now the pit lane is an absolute, cacophony of noise, and he's got a headset on, but even still, it's almost impossible. The noise of these engines.
You've won the jackpot.
Well, Eddie Irvine in radio contact. So Eddie Irvine ended up 13th this morning, and Pedro de la Rosa, his teammate, was 6th. Eddie's always prided himself on being able to destroy his teammates. Well, towards the end of last season, Pedro de la Rosa started to do a bit of destroying. Now, I think it was probably because of other reasons, some of which were no doubt mechanical, but Pedro is a very, very quick little punter in a car, and Eddie Irvine realises that and will very, very shortly want to redress that situation. Back of the car running very low. You could see as he came into turn 13 that little puff of dust from the back of the car as the skid blocks just shaved the ground. Right, Eddie, start a lap as David Coulthard also comes up to complete his first out lap. But we'll have to keep an eye on Eddie Irvine. In fact, on that last segment of the lap, he actually recorded where he was finishing his out lap and beginning the start of a new lap, his personal best of the day, which is not unexpected because the track conditions now look to be absolutely ideal. In fact, I think this track is probably in quite a good condition, although there would need to be a little bit more rubber down. But ambient conditions, the amount of humidity, are all positive for engine performance, and as long as you've got reasonably good tyre temperature, this is a time where you might be surprised by the lap times that you can produce. Well, Montoya, that's what he's done this time. Oh, another trip across the grass one. Just stay away from those little marker cones on the side of the circuit. You want to avoid those. Clip that, it'll damage your wing. Another trip into the pits, time wasted. And remember, for most people, the first session just over an hour ago was not particularly productive. They didn't learn an awful lot, and it was just going through the motions in the case of some of the teams. In the meantime, David Coulthard, personal best in the first and second segments. Coulthard 20th quickest this morning. No reflection of the car or of the driver, just that the team are playing it cool. But running wide out of 14. Got to get the car back to the right for 15. Recovers, and certainly plenty of power and certainly lots of downforce for David Coulthard. Was 20th, goes up to third place, 1:30.369. So 2.5 seconds away from Michael Schumacher, the man we're looking at now. And look at that face, it doesn't give anything away. I mean, you would never want to play poker with Michael Schumacher. You never know what's going on behind those eyes. Eddie Irvine has leapt up to 4th quickest, ahead of Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher and Felipe Massa. Ralf Schumacher, he's deposed Irvine 1 place, Ralf now 4th. Jordan, couldn't quite get through. Fisichella will be disappointed at that. He was on a run. Giancarlo Fisichella currently in 6th place. He was looking for an improvement. That would have... Oh, what's happening? 32.4. Lost 0.8 of a second, and I put that down to Massa, just getting in the way. Fisichella's now backed out of it. He's probably saying a few things in Italian under his breath. It's so familiar, that helmet. You'd almost say, is that Mika Häkkinen? No, it's not. It's Kimi Räikkönen. But the way they both hold their head, and of course the blue and the white of their helmets, not dissimilar, just the design on the side of the helmet different between the two Finnish drivers. Eddie Irvine's decided, after a good first run, he's gone back into the pits. Raikkonen again, good bite, good balance from the McLaren coming through turn 16. So Raikkonen goes third quickest, ahead of Coulthard, 10th of a second between the two McLaren drivers. But is this the beginning of a nightmare for David Coulthard, or is it just something he's going to take in his stride and say, guys, don't worry, it's the race I get points for, not for practicing. Fisichella trying to keep out of the way now of Mika Salo. Salo on a run. Once again, the Toyota being quickest down the back straight at 299 kilometers per hour. Fisichella pops into the pits. That's all because he got held up a lap earlier, and he's taken the opportunity to go in, talk to the team, and then think about what he's going to do for the remaining. Well, we've got some 53 minutes of the session remaining. Michael Schumacher's at it again on his first clear flying lap, shattered his first sector time, and in a couple of moments he'll be in that second sector. Ooh, Alan McNish, be careful. No, the time's not, he must have got traffic. Michael Schumacher might have got held up somewhere around that second segment. Oh, he's had a moment, he's all on his own from what we can see on the computer, but maybe he just was too ambitious. We saw McNish getting a wobble coming into turn 6, so maybe being too greedy, looking for too much speed too soon. The track still is green, although it's dry, there's still not that rubber down, and what happens in this circuit is traditionally the circuit gets faster and faster throughout the weekend, and quite often you see laps being recorded in the race which are very, very close indeed. But he's gone and done it, he's done a 1:27.971. So he recovered in that third segment, got the time back, and has improved even further. Quickest time so far today, and that's by 1.2 seconds from Rubens Barrichello. Raikkonen third, Coulthard fourth, Ralf Schumacher fifth, and Eddie Irvine in sixth. Oh, he's a brave little sod, isn't he? Look at the way he goes in there. I mean, there is no margin whatsoever. Takumi Sato 11th, and just wringing the neck. Problem for one of the arrows, and that's up around turns 8, and that's Bernoldi, Enrico Bernoldi, and that's a mechanical problem as well. Second one we've seen so far this first day of practice in Melbourne. He's going to pull off eventually, but reluctant to go onto the grass too quickly for fear of doing any damage. Although the nose and the various aerodynamic appendages are slightly higher now because of regulations, it's still possible to clip and damage those side wing end plates, and you don't want to do any damage unnecessarily. In the meantime, Rubens Barrichello out in circuit, he's gone quickest in the second sector as well. So Bernoldi just after 7. Oh, look at that. Again, turn 6. That is the bogey corner on the circuit. In fact, it was turn 3 for Ralf Schumacher. As he now makes his way down to turn 6. And let's see how Ralf deals with that. He's fairly aggressive on the entry to the car, right out to the exit. As Bernoldi decides, that's my run for today. Walks away from the car, he'll go to the safety behind the barrier. Oh, Rubens, that's why he went into the pits. He'd been quick in the second sector. He was too quick in turn 15, and I saw him go back into the pits on the computer, but didn't see quite why. That was a sneaky off for Rubens, but we caught you, sunshine. Schumacher again quickest in that first sector, not so quick in the second, again whether it's because of traffic or whether he's just pushing too hard. So we'll wait to see what happens when he comes across start finish line. Well, Peter Windsor's got somebody down in the pit lane who I saw having a big pass to lunch. Peter, it's Mark Webber.
Mark, John Watson wants to know why you had such a large pass to lunch. I guess the answer is you know you had a bit of a wait before you're going to get in the car.
A large smile, was that?
A large pass to lunch.
Oh, yeah. I did have a big lunch. We had a small gearbox problem. Now the guys are taking it off the T car and put it on the race car, my race car, so we're going to try and get it as quick as possible. So a few can of worms have opened themselves.
An amazing thing to make your Formula One debut in your home country. What's this past couple of weeks been like for you?
Mate, it's been amazing. The response we've had from the Australian public has been phenomenal. They love the Formula One more than I thought they did. And yeah, they're very excited. It's huge. They're really up for it.
What was that first lap like out of the pits?
Yeah, very special. A bit nerve-wracking because it was a bit greasy, so I was just installing the car and getting everything ready. But yeah, big moment.
Well, very best of luck. You're going to have 100, if not more, 1,000 Australians behind you this weekend.
Thanks, matey.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve struggling, and it now looks like the VARs have gone from the top to the bottom of the timing screens. Look at the understeers, Villeneuve turning in there. You hear the traction control kicking in. And one wonders what is going on right now with BAR. Olivier Panis just behind in 20th place, his teammate Jacques Villeneuve. So maybe what we saw in that 1 hour session this morning was flattering to deceive. I think, in fact, the reality is everyone's moving forward so quickly, you're just playing catch-up. And it's almost if you blink, you're going to drop about 10 places. Nick Heidfeld, excellent job in 3rd place. Once again, 2 Ferrari and a Ferrari-based engine in the top 3, with Raikkonen 4th, Coulthard 5th. Fenson with a really powerful engine behind that Arrows. It's the Jaguar knee, the Ford-based V10 engine on Bridgestone tyres, and a very pumped-up Heinz Harald out to prove. Ooh, and Heinz is in the gravel. He's in the gravel. That was a rear-end brake lock-up, and he did the right thing. He straightened the car up. He didn't try and, on a win and a wish and a hope, get the car around. He let the car run straight. The gravel here is not going to bog the car down. Of course, with the rain that fell, it also compacts the gravel to some degree. But when he pushed the brakes on, watch for gravel shooting out. Here's the onboard replay of it coming down. Ooh, I could feel that one even from where I was, Heinz. Just a touch too much maybe on the rear brakes. But that's the thing with Formula One, the balance in every area is so fine, be it brakes, be it grip. And Tom Walkinshaw, team boss, well, you don't have to be, let's say, Einstein to read what Tom's view is. He is a very good team boss, but is intolerant of error or mistake. You're allowed it once, thereafter you're on your own, and you better make sure you don't do it too often. Ralf Schumacher currently riding in 10th place, not showing anything particular in terms of the first two segments. Possibly still running the original set of grooved slicks that he went out on towards the end of the session. There's no real need these days to save tyres, because you have 3 sets, essentially 4 Friday running, then a further 7 sets to run you through Saturday and Sunday. Car looks good through 16, got it really tucked in neat. And while he's out on track, Montoya, his teammate's gone 6th quickest. Ralph still in 10th place, but if he needs inspiration, Montoya's just given it to him. What I think is impressive about the Ferrari is through turn 1 and 2, particularly Michael Schumacher. Watch when Schumacher comes into 1. It's how he makes the transition between 1 and 2. He just yanks on the steering wheel. The car responds, but what it does also do, it goes with him. The back doesn't get out of control. And that's what Ferrari worked on throughout the winter of 2000 into the 2001 season. And they will no doubt continue that through into 2002's car. And that really where that car was so dominant, it just gave the drivers the confidence to be able to lean on the car and know that it was going to go with them. Interesting watching Rubens there, short shifting coming into turn 16. He wanted to use full throttle but felt that the gear he had just changed into would maybe unbalance the car, so he went a gear higher. Ferrari, of course, 7-speed gearbox. So a small improvement, 128.066, and brings him within, well, 29 hundredths of a second. Teammate Michael Schumacher. In the meantime, Montoya in 7th got personal best so far in the first and second, so, and keep it clean. You can put yourself ahead of your teammate. He's what, 2.5 tenths behind Ralf Schumacher. He went right out to the edge. So, as we watch Montoya come up to the conclusion of this lap, Peter Windsor's got the man we were talking about a moment ago, Tom Walkinshaw, in the pit lane.
Tom, a few problems going on here at the moment. Can you just identify what's going on with the two cars?
Sorry?
Couple of problems we've had with Bernaldi and Frentzen. Can you just go through those?
Bernaldi had a gear selection problem, so he stopped. And Heinz is just getting his brake balance right. We're running full tanks on it at the moment, just to double check all the brake cooling.
A few rumours around the paddock involving you and the purchase of the Prost team. Would you care to comment?
Oh, well, we haven't bought Prost, but we are... TWR have been contracted to do engineering for it so they can get it up and running quickly.
Well, there you are. You heard it first on our channel. Thank you very much, Tom.
Take care.
Well done, Peter. A nice little scoop like that always goes down a treat, and Tom, never one to be too generous with what he's doing, and he splits the difference by saying, I'm not buying it personally, but TWR is contracted to do some engineering work to enable the team to get up and running, and that's what Formula One's all about. It's the quickness of the hand deceives the eye, but it is all about being absolutely accurate and precise. And in that course, Juan Montoya who we just cut away from to talk to Tom, he went up to 5th place. Ralf Schumacher down to 7th. Well, Alan McNish has gone into the pits, and the reason why, he's gone 8th quickest. He's a pretty happy guy. I mean, Alan McNish, first time in a Formula 1 Grand Prix, first time here in Melbourne, first race for a Toyota Formula 1 car, 8th quickest, I have to say, pretty impressive. I tell you, Sato, you keep that up, you're going to end up sticking that thing in the barriers. You are being so contemptuous. But I mean, what a fantastic little guy. Confidence, speed, just takes the car right to the edge. And I think Eddie Jordan's done it again. He's got another star of the making. But this time, Eddie, do try to hold on to him. They've had so many in the past and they've all drifted away from you. Oh, again, look at that through 11 and 12. I don't think there's anybody on the track who's throwing a car around the way Sato is doing. Now, for a car that was meant to have some strange handling quirks a few weeks ago in testing, the guys at Jordan have certainly got it sorted out enough for Sato to be so, basic and rude with it. I mean, he's just throwing it around like it's a toy. So as one Jordan enters the pits, another one leaves, Giancarlo Fisichella. Look at him, look. What is the guy up to? We need more of them like him, I tell you what. Instead of all this nice, precise driving, let's get a few more Satos out there. Teams, of course, very aware that photographers and digital cameras walk around taking very nice photographs, and of course digital cameras put it onto a computer, download it, you have to find out precisely what any team is doing with their aerodynamics. So as soon as the car's in the pits, they cover everything up.
Really positive going in, then if front goes mid to exit. Then turn 12 is oversteer, and turn 5 in entry, you think the front is going to go, and then the rear snaps. So actually you get oversteer there. Yeah, there's just it's all messed up. When I asked for it, it just goes to the next gear. Yeah, so it wasn't a first lap thing, it was just general run.
Well, that sounded to me as clear as mud.
Alex here, one car is still there.
Juan Pablo Montoya talking to his engineers, and it's interesting when you hear a driver like Juan Pablo talking. There's so much information, and it's almost information overload. Maybe with more experience you learn to be more precise about what the car is doing. But one thing for sure, he can drag a performance out of a car, whether it's good, bad or indifferent. And Kimi Räikkönen, another man that's got that ability. Räikkönen currently the quickest of the two McLarens in 4th place, Coulthard down in 7th. And boy, is Räikkönen late on the brakes. You could see it into turn 13 at the back of the circuit, and into turn 1 he almost overbraked himself. When he just...
Successful testing over the winter?
Yeah, we've done a lot of kilometres this year, a lot longer than previous years, so... but you never get enough testing done, do you? Give them another day, they'll do another day.
You're 3 months into the role now. Has it been as big or a bigger challenge than you expected?
Actually, only 2 months, but mostly what I expected. Still a lot more to be done, though.
Thanks a lot.
Sato came in 5th place and still got a personal best on that first segment. So Fisichella in the Jordan, showing the kind of performance and form that was certainly expected from Fisichella and really being wished and prayed for by Jordan. Well, there's a sign we didn't want to see. Pacamax coming out, and I just wonder, are we getting a little rain skiff or shower? But we saw those black clouds. There they are. They were hanging over Port Phillip Bay at the end of the session, and maybe they are beginning to drift back in over the city and over the circuit. And there is confirmation as movement in the grandstands, people carrying their rain protection, starting to put it on. Fisichella still going quickly, though. It hasn't affected him. He's actually now decided, well, maybe it is going to be too much of a risk. I'm going to go into the pits. Let's watch Rubens Barrichello. Still second quickest. Having completed, this is his 23rd lap so far. In the 1 and just under an hour and a half of running that there's been. Felipe Massi down in 16th place. He's quickest personally in the first 2 segments. Rubens, oh yes, I think there's a little drop or 2 of rain down in turn 3. Just holding the throttle through 5, down into 6. And that's the way to take turn 6. Don't rush it, get the car settled. Make your entry point correctly and get on the throttle. Strangely changed down a gear between 11 and 12. Well, that looks to me like it's a little bit of moisture on the camera lens. I suspect he recognised there's rain falling out, entering into 11. That's why he went down a gear, just to slow it. Then you can see on the coming back, the return side of the circuit, that the rain is now falling. And as Rubens going into the pits, no, he's decided to stay out. He still did a 1:29.157, which is a little over 0.2 of a second away from his best. And Rubens is one of 3 people out on track, and Takuma Sato has just gone out. Michael Schumacher also this is his out lap also. So clearly not too concerned about that little light fall of rain. It might just be very localized. It may not have any real substance after all. So Michael Schumacher just picking up the throttle. Let's see what happens. Well, that was just a lap to build up and check out the track conditions. Oh, Michael! Well, that's not quite what I wanted you to see, but he got it wrong. He went too deep, had to really cut it back, but that's what that Ferrari does so well. You can make that cut, you can make the commitment, and the car will stay with you. So 29.452 is the second, fractionally under. Look at that, 1600th of a second. I mean, well, what's the sky going to tell us? Well, looking into the McLaren pits, 53.098 is the second sector time. He's fractionally up in first. Let's see if he can maintain that. And he has indeed, his 3.5 tenths up. So Michael Schumacher currently on a 1:27.971. He's coming up into the area of the track where we saw that rain falling just a moment or two ago. The track looks fine. He's got a car ahead of him. He'll not want that to come into play. And he's got 2 cars. One of them is an Arrow, and that I assume is Frentzen, because Vinaldi, we saw him pull off and stop. Oh, Frentzen. No love lost between these 2 former teammates in Mercedes-Benz sports cars, and now rivals at many levels in Formula 1. And Michael, not a happy camper about that. 1:28.625. And Montoya, massive lockup. Got it completely wrong. Whatever the setup change he made to his car, that is not the way to go, Juan.
The brakes didn't work very well for the first lap. Okay, copy that.
Well, it's strange the brakes didn't work so well. I mean, I don't know what. Oh, look, Alex Young goes wide as well. But you know, drivers come in and say, "Oh, the brake didn't work." Well, it mightn't work because you probably braked far too late. But you do get knock-off in Formula 1 cars. That's where you get a bit of deflection in the suspension, usually in the upright and in the front hubs, and that can cause a vibration which pushes the brake pads away from the disc. So when you go back onto the brake pedal, you get this a very long pedal, very disconcerting, because normally it affects one end of the car and not the other, and consequently what it means is that you'll get a brake lock-up either front or rear, and that maybe it was just a front brake lock-up. Well, Takuma Sato, a relative latecomer to motor racing, didn't start until his late teens, and with all that effort and all the spectacular driving, down in 17th place, while teammate Fisichella is all the way up in 5th place. So, David Coulthard just having a little gentle run around the circuit. So this is his out lap and it's his in lap. He's gone out and he's gone straight back in again. Just over 26 minutes of this session now remaining. And generally what happens is towards the end of the session, the one fresh set of tyres that you have remaining, because you may have tried the 2 compounds available, and most teams will opt for the prime as opposed to the optional tyre. That will probably go on, and we'll get the first glimpse as we get into the final maybe 10 or 15 minutes of this session as to what the teams are going to find out when they come back here then on Saturday morning in preparation for qualifying. But Montoya's done well, up to 4th place. He'll be happy enough with that. 1:29.869. And teammate Ralf Schumacher back down now into 12th place. Nick Heidfeld has his fuel pressure problem repaired. This is a car, particularly around the front aerodynamics of it, that many people have been very impressed with, the way that the Sauber team have developed the aerodynamics, the way the nose wing is held, and how the suspension components interact with that to allow the air to flow cleanly and stay with the car. From this little Swiss-based team, get on with their job very quietly, no fuss no bother. Peter Sauber, a very self-effacing team principal, unlike others in the pit lane who I will mention, should mention, but can't. And a team that's got a pretty good package. 2 young drivers, one who's got great potential, one who's feeling frustrated and may well fulfill his potential. but will have hard work, I think, retaining that 4th slot, because there are a number of teams, Renault being one of them, who I think will be in competition to start to challenge in 2003 what I presume will be the top 3 teams, which are the same as this year: Ferrari, McLaren and Williams, but not necessarily in that order. Heidfeld comes around, and that's another end of another run. Ralf Schumacher, somewhat peeved by Montoya going up to 4th place, has improved his personal bests. As we cut away to Felipe Massa, Heidfeld coming back into the pits. We're looking for Ralf Schumacher, who's, let's say, not happy.
Nick.
Oh, very wide, coming out of turn 5 like that. I mean, he's got phenomenal reactions. A real instinct to drive a car on a limit, but I mean, how far are you going to go before it's going to bite you? In the meantime, Ralf has bitten Montoya. He's gone 3rd quickest. Montoya's back down to 5th. And there we have it. The rain is falling again, as Pedro de la Rosa has probably just realised he should have seen it in his visor, and this time maybe it's going to be a little bit more heavy than we saw a few moments earlier. Again, the pack of Max coming out. Now let's have a look at Takumi Sato. What does he do in these wet parts of the track? If he's got car control like he's got, he'll just take it in his stride. He'll probably not even know it's wet. Well, just as soon as Ralf had gone ahead of Montoya, Montoya's just returned the compliment. He's back now ahead of his teammate, and what we've got are 2 Ferraris and 2 Williams in the top 4. Let's watch Pedro de la Rosa coming down, and just, well, there wasn't enough grip there. The car he didn't turn the car. In fact, he knew he had to get the car slowed down in a straight line as much as possible. But again, because the curbing and the grass there are very kind to cars, he didn't do any damage and he's back on track. And then feeling he might have is a bit of damaged pride. So Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello were 1st and 2nd. Juan Pablo Montoya, Ralf Schumacher 3rd and 4th. Nick Heidfeld, Kimi Räikkönen 5th and 6th. And Fisichella and Jarno Trulli 7th and 8th. David Coulthard 9th, and Jacques Villeneuve in the VAR is up to 10th. With just over 21 minutes remaining. And that most down there. We've seen a lot of drivers coming down in, locking up a brake, having to go straight on, but Alex got the rear brakes locked on, looped the car around, hit the gravel, and once the momentum's lost, it just bogs down, and well, he'll be disappointed. Just look at it again as he comes down. Oh well, big lock up with the front brakes, gets off the brakes, can't slow the car down, and I suspect the reason is that the track there is probably a little bit more slick than it had been the previous time he was round. So the young Malaysian driver who charmed everybody at his debut in Monza, very polite off the track, very polite on the track. Team boss Paul Stoddard acknowledging, well, sorry boss, my fault this time. Alex Young, in fact, had been 22nd of the 22 car field, and he'd only done a 1:44.011, so he'd only really begun his afternoon session. Then rain drops down at turn 6. Pedro de la Rosa very, very careful. Yellow flag out to indicate that is rain falling. So drivers now getting very much more information, also available on their dashboards, so that they don't come into an area of rain that was not there, was unexpected. Michael Schumacher, I don't know whether he's going to bother after this lap, because if the track is slow in one part of it, there's not going to be a great deal of point unless they can use other parts of the track to assess whatever the changes that they might have been making. Sometimes teams feel that is worthwhile, even though the overall lap time will be slower, but they still can use valuable parts of the track and get information.
At this point we can go live to the pit lane and join Gustav Brunner of Toyota, for whom I presume this is a rather emotional day, Gustav.
Yes, first time out, it's a good start and it's all going reasonably well for us.
How deliberate was it that you were the first car to start the first session?
Yes, that was on purpose. I think it's better for us. We have an awful lot to learn to be out first.
Now, others in your position have said they're going to win their first race. What realistically are your ambitions? Congratulations on your first day as a Formula One team. And from a noisy Toyota pit, let's rejoin the relative quiet of John Watson in the commentary booth.
Thanks, Matt. Well, McNish in the Toyota 13th quickest, Salo in the Toyota 15th quickest. So I think Toyota should be very pleased indeed with what they've done here. First time they run in anger with teams at a Grand Prix. Gustav Brunner, who's been for many years overlooked, he's a very, very talented engineer and designer. Toyota, of course, got a brilliant engine in the back of that car, and two drivers are doing an extremely respectable job. Now, okay, this isn't qualifying, this isn't the Grand Prix, but it's nice to see a new team coming in and doing a very, very respectable job indeed. Well, track conditions may not be ideal for some, but Michael Schumacher's found some time in that second sector. He's done the fastest time of the day so far. And there's plenty of grip as he comes out of 13. And just again, see how he can, lets the car run and he just pulls it back down to take the next corner. Again, look through 16, gets the front of the car right into the apex. 27.9 to beat, 27.4, over half a second quicker, and that doesn't send shockwaves through the rest of the pits. Well, Kimi Raikkonen's got the message, he's got the timing screen right in front of him, and he's thinking, well, not bad for an old fella, but wait until I get into my stride, he'll know what speed is all about. Pierre Dupasquier, the man who provides the tyres for McLaren. Those are Michelin tyres. And he has a worried look in his face because the Ferrari is on the rival make, Bridgestone. Ralf Schumacher still in 4th place, just 1 spot behind Montoya. And looking down through the rest of the field, Frentzen out, Benoldi of course stopped, Webber out, Young had that spin and in the gravel. Micasalo, well, that's the way to go through turn 5. Car looks nice, it doesn't look scary. Salo's been around a little bit, hasn't he? He's done a few Grand Prix. And in fact, car not bad. Personal quickest form so far in that first sector. Personal best in the second sector. Well, Micasalo has gone 3rd quickest, 1:29.601, and I mean that's going to put a smile on Salo's face. What's it going to do to Ove Anderson? That is a brilliant run from the Finn Micasalo, and I'm sure once again people in the pit lane are going to go, you what? Now, of course, they may have a low fuel run, they may have put a fresh set of tyres on, they may have done a lot of things to go for that quick single lap. But, you know, to be only behind the 2 Ferraris, that's good.
80 kilo.
Well, Flavio Briatore overseeing the Renault team. And all of a sudden the pit lane's getting a bit busy because Barrichello's gone out, Ralf Schumacher's out, Raikkonen's out, Fisichella's out, and Villeneuve have gone out. We've got 12 minutes of this session remaining, and from now on this is countdown because this is your last chance to get a quick time in to feel what the car might be like when it gets to tomorrow. Take the fuel out, though some will still run with a lot of fuel on board. They want to maybe disguise the potential of their car and also maximise the information and knowledge that they will want for Sunday. And I think it looks very much like that's what Micasalo has done. They've taken all the fuel out, fresh rubber, because his second lap was 0.4 of a second off his previous quickest time for 3rd place. And that's usually the indication that the tyre has shown its best performance in that first flying lap. Toyota, of course, on Michelin tyres, and right now Toyota are the lead Michelin team.
The car.
A little bit of confusion going on in the Sauber pits with Felipe Massa. It looked like the car came away from the jack as they were trying to start her up. He's got an engine going.
The voltage is completely dead. Battery voltage dead. Open this and let's change the battery. There must be a problem with the battery voltage. We have no voltage in the car.
Well, they're saying that there's no spark or no electric, so if the battery runs down, the battery really doesn't do anything other than keep the thing running.
You're sure we have to change the battery now?
Well, Felipe Massa is having a problem. Dave Richards is down in the pit lane with Peter Windsor, and I hope he hasn't got a problem there. there's a problem for Felipe Massa, but in fact what he's doing is he's going to do a bit of a practice start. Let's see how the traction control, and there he goes. And it's 9.5 minutes remaining. Ralf Schumacher gone up to third place ahead of Salo. Barrichello making personal improvements. Michael Schumacher in the pits.
Very hard. Yes, very, very hard for next. The tire pressure. It's coming hard. Yeah. To do another launch? Yeah. Start on the ground then, Russ, please. So I think we'll only get one time lap, Heinz. Clock's on your steering wheel.
Well, the team deciding what to do. They reckon they've only got time for one more flying lap. We've got just 8 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Oh, and that's somebody off. That's Jordan. And it is Fisichella. If that's not an off, that's an engine, I would say, related problem. Probably because there's a massive hole somewhere. We'll have to have a look at that replay. And Fisichella dives underneath the back of the car to confirm what he probably already knew. When an engine goes in these things, it is massive. The things are revving so high. The Jordan team thinking about, well, there's a bit of extra work we hadn't anticipated. Not a good sign for Honda. That's the first serious mechanical failure, certainly from an engine that we've seen so far on Friday, and a disappointment for Fisichella, who was in 8th place. He'd have liked these last 7.5 minutes to go out and do a bit more. Ooh, Juan Montoya, look at him all over the place. This car is not handling, and I don't know why, because Williams had a pretty good car in the latter days of pre-season testing. Well, we can hear and see on the screens Rubens Barrichello has snatched the first sector time. Wait, here he is, he comes up now to this very long 10 into turn 11, and then you've got the switch to the right. Quickest there as well, Rubens Barrichello. Two cars ahead of him. This could spoil what could be right now the fastest lap of the day so far. Jenson Button, see the nose, the red nose, he's going to the, he knew he'd lost it. As soon as he saw Button and the car ahead of him, he just came in and said, forget it, I'm not going to waste my time. I know that those valuable 3-4 tenths of a second, they weren't going to be there any longer. So while again one Ferrari comes in, the other one goes out. Michael Schumacher on his out lap. Mika Salo in the pits. And further down the field, Coulthard, Villeneuve and De La Rosa in the pits, as are Irvine, Pennis and Sato. Whether that lap of Rubens would have been enough to shut down the 0.6 of a second to Schumacher, I doubt very much, but it certainly would have brought him closer to it, and that's what you're looking for. 20-year-old Brazilian. 850 horsepower, up to 180 miles an hour. Massa in 8th place, 2 behind teammate Heidfeld. And that looked a bit squirrely through there to me, but he still kept the momentum. One thing, these young kids, if nothing else, they are enthusiastic. Massa got to beat 129.9, that's his personal best, and exactly 1 second away. So all that sawing in the steering wheel did no good at all, but just looking at those front wheels, you can see, I think, a little bit of feathering particularly on that left front. That's where the tyre rubber starts to roll. It usually indicates a compound that's maybe not really operating at full temperature, and consequently the rubber rolls across the tread surface, and that of course leads to the front end loss of grip and therefore understeer, and you saw it on the steering wheel from Massa. Well, there's the speed trap. Mark Webber, 305 kilometers per hour. It bears no resemblance whatsoever to his lap time. He's actually in 20th place, but it just goes to indicate what happens when you've got a car that you have to run a lot less downforce than the competition because you haven't got the horsepower to drag downforce around. Kimi Raikkonen's got plenty of downforce because he's got plenty of horsepower. Raikkonen dropped down now to 7th place. Oh, and a chunk of time away from Michael Schumacher. I don't know what McLaren are doing. They may well still have a lot of fuel on board. They may be using this practice time thinking forward to Sunday, and they will have already done long-term weather forecasts. If they know the weather's going to be below 20 degrees, or as Jackie Stewart indicated, not more than 23, they will want the most information that they can, and they would rather sacrifice going quickly on Friday to be quick on Saturday, but mostly to win on Sunday. That time bears no relevance to the potential of the McLaren or of Raikkonen. As we see our little hero go back out again between Sato and Massa, these two are without doubt entertaining. The oldest man in the field, and he hates being reminded. Maybe old, but certainly young at heart. Eddie Irvine knows how to party, but do not mistake his social life or his professional life. He does work very hard. He's sometimes, let's say, direct in his way of expressing things, sometimes maybe a little bit unkind in how he says it. But he's an intelligent man, and working now with Niki Lauda, it's brought a sort of a combination of likes to the Jaguar team. Massa on a good run, quickest personal best so far in the first segment. So, gets very wide in 14. 8th place, just a 10th of a second away from Raikkonen. So he's found a bit of speed which he lost on the lap earlier when we were travelling on board. 1:30.919. Well, he lost it in all that last segment. I think that slide in 14 was evident of what was going on. So Kimi makes a trip in turn 6. In the meantime, the boss, Michael Schumacher, personal quickest in first and second segments. Interestingly, not the quickest of the day, yet he's still the quickest driver on track with 1:27.419. Once again, Jenson Button finds a Ferrari behind him. This time it's Michael Schumacher, not Rubens Barrichello. Michael able to deal with that kind of distraction and not let it affect him too much. But look at the power of the Ferrari, just drags up behind, comes out, and basically that time was a potential 1:26.9, because in spite of not losing concentration, he did lose a little bit of time. He had to check his speed. So Michael Schumacher continues into the low 1:27s. And in a session, really, which is just about getting the car set up, he's only 0.4 of a second away from pole time in 2001. Rubens Barrichello, he's responding. He's gone quickest in that second segment, quickest of the day. And he looks like he's got a pretty good exit out of 15 into 16. Gets the car, hugs the curb, lets it run wide, lets the car loosen up, frees it on the exit. Comes down across start-finish line, Rubens Barrichello. Marginal improvement, 1:27.799. So the session ends. There's still cars out on track. And this man is one of them, Michael Schumacher, so he is allowed to complete this lap. And that time will stand. Michael, what are you going to do? Oh, Michael, you got into trouble down in turn 6 last year. You actually rolled the mother. So thank you for showing that on replay. And that's the end of Michael's day, because that time is one for posterity. That's one for the Christmas video, actually. So he'll come straight into the pits. And we look at the top 6 times. 2 Ferraris, 2 Williams, a Toyota. Well, the Sauber, yes, but a Toyota in 5th place. That is, well, all I can say is joy to Toyota. They've done an absolutely stunning job. Whether they can sustain that performance tomorrow, well, that's to look forward to, as will be those 2 45-minute sessions first thing on Saturday morning before we go into 1 hour of qualifying. Remember, 12 laps, 4 sets of tyres. It's for the quick and the brave. Nick Heidfeld up to 5th place, demotes Salo down to 6th, but hey guys, Salo and Toyota, they're not going to worry too much about it. The difference in time is a 10th of a second. So only a few more cars remaining out on track. And Nick Heidfeld makes his way back. All cars have now taken the checkered flag. So they'll file back into the pits. Of course, there'll be random scrutineering. So you don't think that your day's work is over. You'll drive down the pit lane, suddenly you'll be waved off into the scrutineering bay, and you have to go through all the measurements. Frustrating for the drivers, frustrating for the team, but it's the only way to run a sport like Formula One, is to keep it absolutely straight and narrow. So we see the top 10, Schumacher, Barrichello, Schumacher, Montoya, Heidfeld, Salo, Raikkonen, Massa, Fisichella and Trulli. And Bridgestone tyres and Michelin. Bridgestone certainly hold the dominance at the minute, but Michelin is 3rd and 4th, Bridgestone 5th, Michelin 6th and 7th. There's not an awful lot to pick and choose. It's just really who got the time in on that last lap, who got a clear lap, who went with a low fuel, who went with a half fuel, who didn't want to show their hand. Coulthard, Villeneuve, Sato, De La Rosa, Button, McNish, Irvine, Panis. Frentzen will be disappointed. Webber, he'll be just happy to get into a Grand Prix and to have had some running. And then Benoldi and Young. Benoldi had that problem, stopped out on track, and Young spun into the gravel. So a good second session, and one that saw an outstanding. Look at that. Michael Schumacher shakes hands with Frentzen. With Raikkonen. In the meantime, Peter Windsor's got Frank Williams down in the pit lane.
Frank, early days, but what conclusions could you draw so far?
Maybe this afternoon only best of the rest. What really matters is the pace of the 2 Ferraris are just another class. It looks inhumanly quick at the present time.
But come on, you must be running quite a lot of fuel.
We never comment about what we're doing.
Juan Pablo had a few moments today. Was that something going on with setting up the car, or Juan Pablo?
No, he was just complaining about his brakes, but we're running a pretty hard material. It'll take a little while to get them hot enough to perform properly and accurately.
Who do you think is the most impressive of the rookies so far?
It's too soon to say, because it depends how much fuel are on the various cars. But Massa looks pretty comfortable. Raikkonen always excels too.
Thank you very much, Frank, and good luck for the rest of the weekend.
Thanks, Peter.
Well, there's one of those two men. Kimi Raikkonen walks back down. I think he's had his car pulled in for scrutineering, and looks like he doesn't want to be stopped. He doesn't want to do those opportunistic interviews that we do try to get you all the time. And there's a pretty happy guy as well. Felipe Massa did a very, very good job. Worked hard, hand movement, and throttle pedal you could hear up and down like a fiddler's elbow. But, you know, for a 20-year-old kid to jump into a car, come to your first Grand Prix in a circuit he's never seen until he arrived here, and throw the car around, well, I have to say, great skill from the driver, but it must be a pretty user-friendly car as well. Well, I think the sun's beginning to break through. Finally, that's the weather we expect in Melbourne. Let's hope that we have better tomorrow and the track picks up time. But let's look back on some of the highlights that we watched in this last hour and just remind ourselves of some of the fun